Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibiers, welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's good to have you here. Still Monday, November 25th. I didn't think I'd do a second episode today, but we have breaking news popping off. It seems like every hour for half the day, and I'm going to bring you the latest. It's a good reminder, though, if you're not subscribed on YouTube, go do that and click the little bell icon for notifications, because today I posted 3 breaking news updates, and if you don't have that enabled, you miss it until I can get around to do an episode on it. So let's break down what all happened today. We're going to start with the Menendez brothers. The resentencing hearing that was set for December 11th has been rescheduled for January 30th and possibly into the 31st of next year, now that current District Attorney George Gascon was voted out and Nathan Hochman set to take the reins. He needs time to review the case. Also, Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Michael Jessic said he also needed more time to review the recommendation because he's new to the case after it was transferred to him. Just a reminder, Eric and Lyle killed their parents with a shotgun back in 1989 at their home in Beverly Hills, and say the reason is they suffered sexual abuse at the hands of their father, Jose, for years since early childhood. The first trial ended in a hung jury. Second trial, they were not allowed to bring in much of the abuse claims, and both were found guilty and sentenced to life. The brothers attended the hearing remotely today. There were technical difficulties, so they ended up and had to listen over the phone. They did not speak at the hearing. The judge is considering a habeas corpus petition filed by the defense team, which cites 2 new pieces of evidence that were not presented at that first and second trial. The first new piece of evidence is a letter that Eric sent to a cousin back in 1988 before the murders, talking about the abuse, and the second piece of new evidence are claims by former Menudo member Roy Rosello that Jose Menendez drugged and sexually assaulted him. The brothers' attorney, Mark Garagos, also asked the judge to downgrade their charge from first-degree murder to voluntary manslaughter. If the judge were to do that, the boys would be released immediately because they have served 3 times the maximum for that sentence. They've been in prison 30 years now. And Mark Garagos called 2 of Lyle and Eric's aunts, Joan, who is the sister of Kitty. She's going to be 93 years old tomorrow, by the way. He also called Terry, who is a sister of Jose's. They both told the judge they want the brothers home. Jose's sister, Terry, cried as she told the judge she was close to Jose and said, "We miss those we lost, but we miss the kids too. I asked for some leniency to have them back." She said her daughter and Eric are the same age, and she would like to be able to see and hug the brothers again. Joan, Kitty's sister, said no child should have to endure what they went through. I love them and wait for them to come home. The judge invoked AB 600. He has jurisdiction to do so under California law. What is AB 600? That's a new law that allows California courts to recall or take back a previous sentence and then re-sentence the person potentially with a lighter or shorter sentence if there is a change in the law that might impact the previous sentence. AB 600 ensures the new sentence is not worse than the initial sentence. After the hearing, Mark Garagos came out. The brothers' 2 aunts, Joan and Terry, also came out and very briefly spoke. Joan said they want them home, and what can a kid do when their fathers, and then she trailed off and just said, "I can't stand it." Jose's sister, Terry, said 35 years is a long time. At this point, Mark Garagos said he would answer questions if the press left the elderly sisters alone, and some did not. So Mark Garagos walked away and did not come back. So that was it for today. We'll see what happens in the near future. As far as any filings, I will update. And then, of course, we'll follow that resentencing hearing when it comes at the end of January of next year. Moving on to Billy Wagner. He's accused in the 2016 murders of 7 members of the Roden family, as well as Hannah Hazel Gilley in Pike County, Ohio. commonly referred to the Pike County Massacre. I have an entire playlist on this case, and I will do a big update episode of what we know as a crash course before Billy's trial starts. A judge ruled today that Billy's trial will be moved out of Pike County, saying that the jury pool has been tainted, prejudice is presumed, and no jury could truthfully answer that they have no prior knowledge of the horrendous facts of this case. He also said in his ruling, additional media penetration exceeds traditional over-the-air media distribution as a result of internet dissemination, social media distribution, and subsequent crime show publicity about the case. In a November 20th dated court document, the state of Ohio wrote that they became aware of previously unknown information following an October 7th court hearing. The state wrote specifically, the state learned that the media outlets that broadcast to the Pike County residents are from Columbus, Ohio, not Cincinnati, Ohio. This information is pertinent to this court's decision as to the motion in regard to media coverage. Much of the defendant's arguments stemmed from the number of media outlets still covering pretrial hearings in the case. In fact, they alluded to the number of media outlets in the courtroom on October 7th, 2024, and also indicated there was 100% saturation of this case's coverage in the Cincinnati area. The media in this courtroom were, in fact, all from the Cincinnati area. They argued Cincinnati's viewership coverage only goes as far north as Adams County. But in his ruling, the judge said the court finds that making the venue decision well in advance of trial reduces delay and reduces implicit bias. Such benefits serve the state, the defendant, the victims, and the judicial process. We do not know where this trial will end up and be held. Billy has pleaded not guilty to all 22 charges, which include 8 counts of aggravated murder. Moving on to more news that came down in this case today. We know that the family of 4 were all arrested and charged. His son George is currently in prison after being found guilty on all charges and sentenced to multiple life sentences. His son Jake took a plea deal with the state where in exchange for the death penalty being taken off the table for the entire family, he confessed to the murders, led authorities to very key pieces of evidence in the case, and part of that plea deal was that he had to testify to the state's satisfaction at the trials of his brother George, which he did, and then the upcoming trial of his father, Billy. Billy's wife and mother of the boys, Angela Wagner, also took a plea deal and testified against her son, George. She admitted to her role in the murders. She confirmed Jake's testimony about the planning, execution, and cover-up of the murders. Now, both she and Jake are supposed to testify against Billy at his trial, which is set to begin January 6th. Before we get to the news for today, let's kind of go back in time to a hearing last week, which got really heated between the judge and prosecutor, Angela Canepa. The judge said he was suspending the death penalty for Billy Wagner until the defense and the state could come to an agreement over how that will be handled in a way that will move the case forward faster. Prosecutor Canepa said this kind of deal is one of a kind, and they've been working on a deal to honor the plea deal of removing death while at the same time getting insurance that Jake will testify truthfully like he agreed to. So essentially, when they made this plea deal, the state gets to decide at the end of testimony for both trials whether or not Jake held up to his end of the bargain. If they feel he didn't, they could reinstate the death penalty for everybody. The judge told the attorneys, however, I'm done waiting. He said the state was supposed to have an agreement by September or October of this year, and he told prosecutor Canepa, we're getting there. It was like somebody played a record today. I'm telling you, we're not going forward with trial on a death penalty specification when the defense isn't ready because the state is not ready. I'm not assigning fault. I'm saying the clock ran out. Canepa then asked the judge, we've got the testimony, sworn testimony of his 2 co-defendants that he participated and personally killed 3 people. Why are you trying to sabotage this case right now? The judge responded, he's not. Prosecutor Canepa said, yes, you absolutely are. The judge says he has a duty to get this case done, and Prosecutor Canepa said the court is demonstrating complete bias in the case and objects to every single thing the judge said during that hearing. Prosecutor O'Brien said, I think the court properly can and should set a deadline if the court wants to set a deadline, but I've never seen death penalty specifications dismissed absent the state making the request or the defense making the request. The judge said he wanted to go ahead and sentence Jake and Angela before the start of Billy's trial. And today, he did just that. He set sentencing for both Jake and Angela for December 14th of this year. Angela's is set to begin at 9 a.m., Jake's following at 11 a.m. Could this mean Jake and Angela will not be testifying in Billy's trial? I think it's entirely possible at this point. Also, instead of officially taking death off the table for Billy and putting that in the court record, he gave both sides until today to come up with a plan, or says he will proceed in taking death off the table for Billy. And the last bit of news we have today is about Sheriff Mickey Stines. He shot and killed Judge Kevin Mullins while Judge Mullins was inside his chambers on September 19th of this year. He was arraigned today after a grand jury returned a murder indictment just last week. I did live stream this hearing. The audio was absolutely terrible. Not on my end. It was just the feed, and sometimes that happens. His lawyer entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. The sheriff did not speak, and he was denied bond, as that will be a matter for the trial judge to take up. That indictment did not offer any more information on the motive for the shooting. There's been tons of rumors about what happened that led up to this murder. Now, his preliminary hearing was last month, and they did show video of that murder. Very, very disturbing to watch. Because of the close community ties of both the suspect and the victim, the case is being handled by a special prosecutor, and a retired judge was appointed by the state. Stein's defense attorney says his defense of the shooting is compelling, and a deposition given by Stines in a separate federal lawsuit is part of it. Stines is named as a defendant in a lawsuit which the plaintiff said one of Stein's deputies by the name of Ben Fields offered her leniency in exchange for sexual favors that is alleged to have taken place in Judge Mullins' chambers. The plaintiff was on house arrest and allegedly told Deputy Fields she could not afford the monthly fee for the ankle monitor to stay on house arrest. She says Deputy Fields told her to meet him at the Letcher County Courthouse after dark in June of 2021, where she says he took off her ankle monitor and said she would not have to pay the fees but could stay on house arrest. She says the two of them met at the courthouse at least 6 times between June of 2021 and December of 2021. She says Deputy Fields committed coercive and sexual acts that she did not consent to. The visits were typically before scheduled hearings for the woman the next day, where he would put the ankle monitor back on her so that she would appear to be in compliance with her house arrest terms. Stines is named as a defendant in that lawsuit for failing to properly train and supervise Deputy Ben Fields, as well as failing to reasonably respond to reports or suspicions. Now, Judge Mullins is not named in the lawsuit, although his chambers is allegedly where these events occurred. Stines says he was not aware of the allegations until the lawsuit, which was filed by the plaintiff in 2022. Now, Stines did fire Deputy Fields on February 2nd, 2022 for conduct unbecoming. Mickey Stines faces the death penalty if he's convicted. So that's the latest today. I've been keeping an eye out to see if there's a ruling for Diddy as far as bond goes. So far today, nothing. But again, if that happens, I will put a YouTube short up when a decision comes down. All right, that I think is it for today, but you never know. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you soon.